I have done so many interviews lately, but I am excited about this one because we're not talking about aloe yoga suing people or all the other interviews I've got to do with farmers and multi-billionaire natural products founders. I am here with someone who I really like, Danielle Radulski.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
The feeling's mutual. Happy to be here.
I would say you don't have to say that, but you're on live video, so you kind of have
so I'm going to say it. Yeah.
As they say in interrogations, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm a yoga teacher, digital marketer. I live right outside New York City. Couple other things. I love to cook. I have a dog that I love. I call myself a fur mama. But yeah, yoga is definitely kind of my passion, or totally my passion. And then I do digital marketing as well. So I freelance for a couple different companies in the wellness space. And then I also obviously have my own blog. I have a YouTube channel, Instagram, all the good social channels. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I feel like if we had to choose one person to be kind of our demographic, you could be symbolic of our entire demographic as elephants. So, except you're probably a bit more experienced in teaching yoga. And also what I wanted to talk with you about is you're someone who's popular on Instagram. You have built a good presence there relatively rapidly. And you're one of the few who, for whatever reason, and we can talk about why, but where it doesn't seem super narcissistic and intolerable to look at. So that's kind of, I want to make this video super helpful to all the newer yoga teachers out there who are looking at Instagram. And so many of these young yoga teachers in Boulder will say to me, off camera, they'll be like, I don't really like Instagram and Facebook. I don't want to be on it all the time, but I have to do it for my career. And I'm sympathetic to that. But there is like a third way, not being offline, not being just giving into it and not being sincere about it, but actually finding a way where you feel good about it. So first of all, do you feel good about your presence, your photos, your captions on Instagram and whatever else you're using?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer in balance. So I think that you'll find on my page and just who I am as a person, you'll find a lot of balance in marketing things, promotional things, and then also like a lot of transparency. And I think that'll, that kind of, I like to think is really important in every aspect of life. And also, especially to someone who might say, and I think we talked about this recently, but you don't wake up every single day and want to write like 4 Instagram captions and share on stories. Like there's some days that you just wake up and you don't really feel like doing things. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where the balance and where the whole idea of, are you going to use social media to further your career and build a brand? And, then it takes on kind of a different responsibility. But I also am a big believer in, after like 7, 8 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock, sometimes I try to kind of like tune out, like turn my phone not off, but I'm not on stories as much or active, or if I'm doing something, I take photos while I'm doing it and then I post it later. That way I'm just kind of able to still enjoy the moment without, fully being immersed in my phone the whole time.
Yeah. Well said. I think that's great advice. I think, I basically do the same thing, and that's saying something for someone who runs,
seriously.
That, as soon as I get home with my dog or whatever, I'm basically, again, like yourself, my phone isn't off, but it's either in airplane mode or in the other room.
Right.
Because if I don't do that, this isn't me being virtuous or anything. If I don't do that, I am on my phone or on my laptop for hours, and I don't even know what happened to my evening. It's just like gone. And it kind of happened to me this weekend. We have a lot of news going on, as you may know, in the yoga world right now.
Yep.
And I just kept getting pulled back. Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in for another blog. So, a couple things I really like that you do so let's first talk about sort of narcissism. So I don't feel like when I look at, so there's this great phrase, I'm all over the place today. There's this great phrase in Scarface, which is one of my favorite movies, where the mentor is saying, he gives a couple commandments for business, and one of them is don't get high on your own supply. And I feel like I always repeat that. Like, do you feel like you ever get a little bit too into yourself in a way that doesn't feel right? and on the other side, how do you share all these photos of yourself doing yoga, looking beautiful in yoga clothes that are beautiful without something about them doesn't seem narcissistic? So how do you do that?
It's funny because the last time we chatted, I think you said like, how do you maintain like that girl next door thing? Like, you're not exactly like standing there like this every single time. Like, you're clearly doing things where, you know, they could be perceived as provocative or whatever you want to call it.
I don't think being overtly sexual, not that anything's wrong with that. A lot of readers will be like,
hell yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And go to hell. I don't think that's important to me, but there's some quality to it that is more, I think if I said girl next door, what I would mean is like, there's a connection that doesn't feel like it's about your celebrity.
And I think a big part of what I try to convey is, I mean, everything that I share, right, is coming from the heart. So it's funny. My boyfriend always says like, all you do is post pictures of yourself. Like, why don't you put other people in there? Right. So, you know, it's not because I'm obsessed with myself, right? It's because I am just sharing the yoga journey. So, and that kind of can go back to how much of your life do you want to share? Do you want to keep it to just yoga? Do you want to share your family? Do you want to share your job? All these other things. But I think that I'm always coming from the heart. And I think that that's what makes these photos where if I was just, you know, posting a generic quote every time I shared a photo, or, you know, complaining about something or saying, you know, poor me, poor this. I think that it makes it not narcissistic because it's coming from a genuine point of care, point of concern, you know, whether I'm sharing tips on yoga or it's talking about anxiety or.
Well, me and my eyebrows are still here, but we may be frozen for a second. And I think what Danielle does well is she isn't falsely humble. She shares images of herself all the time. And like her boyfriend was saying, somehow, so I was just talking about what I appreciate with you while you froze there. And that was probably a weird experience for the viewers. But basically, I was just saying it feels inauthentic and pretentious when these like 22-year-old men or women yoga teachers who have done their first 200 hours suddenly are dropping like, you know, Krishnamacharya level, like
truth bombs and
while doing their like gorgeous yoga poses. And there's something about it that's like, oh my God, who are you know? Like I get like you as a person, but then I see you on Instagram and it feels like you're doing some weird act.
And I think a lot of it too goes back to people generally feeling like they have either a persona to live up to, or, you know, they're getting judged on social media. So they need to put up this facade of who they either are or aren't. So I think that that's a big part of it too, is just learning how to be true to yourself and kind of conveying it in a way that's easily understood by people. I think that people oftentimes just overcomplicate things. And when you just speak from the heart, and whether it's the truth or not,
I think that's half of it. I think the other half is that a lot of people say my truth all the time, and then it becomes this weird, like my own spiritual teachings,
my dharma, and
it becomes again a little self-obsessed. So basically, whenever you're getting high off of yourself, just remember that hopefully your whole career and your whole life is about helping others and celebrating this life, including yourself. So false humility doesn't help either.
Right.
If you're fabulous, be fabulous. That's great. But I say exactly what your boyfriend says. So I love that so many times. Like when it's my friends, I often unfollow my own friends who just every single day it's a photo of them. Like,
he's like, your page is kind of narcissistic. I'm like, yeah, but you read, like, he doesn't have an Instagram, so he doesn't read what I write, but I 100% get where he's coming from. And I think that it's very funny. And I totally get how, if you're coming across my page and you're not like reading what I'm writing, how I can probably look a little narcissistic. But
and I mean, you're smiling right now. So that's the other key, is having a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah, you have to
get you out of any trouble of narcissism ever. If you can laugh at yourself, then you can you have some, that's awareness. That's
right.
literally Buddhism. We would say that is awareness.
And the last time we spoke, it was funny because I was talking about like vegan and how I'm not vegan, but now I'm going dairy free. So I'm like slowly, but I say all the time how I'm like waiting to get these messages of like, you can't be a yogi, you're not vegan, like, you know, but I'm waiting for it because that's the first thing that people do is judge you. And I think that there's a lot to be said for everybody makes their own decision, you know, like I'm not forcing people to be here and follow me. So if you don't like the way I live my life and what I do, then I say, I'm not the person for you. And
I'm not getting into veganism right now.
No, I don't want to.
I'm like literally like,
no. But just saying that like everybody's always going to be out there and judge you. So you just have to be true to who you are. And
yeah, I really want to say stuff about that, but it'll become all about veganism. And then this interview will be
that's another conversation.
Yes. Yeah. I would say that what I appreciate about you as a vegan, and you're not a vegan, is that you actually have the guts to show what you enjoy, which is cooking often. And it's not vegan, clearly. And I appreciate that you show it.
Yeah.
And it's also not like in a $5 million kitchen. That
God.
You being you. I don't know if I said girl next door, that sounds super lame, but like you feel like a friend.
Right.
To people. And I like that. I really like that. So let's focus on career. So totally. I have friends here in Boulder who are yoga teachers who are crazy popular. Their classes are like sold out, but they still only make like $75 per class. Yeah. If they teach it, and that's high for some.
That's high.
Yeah. And if they teach like 5 classes a week, which isn't that many, but let's say they teach, I don't know how many is many, but like that's not going to pay your rent.
It's hard. It's really hard.
So how do you make it as a yoga teacher in 2018, whatever it is?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I have what I call my side hustle. So yoga is my passion. I do digital marketing on the side. So just full transparency that does help a lot. If I didn't have that.
Is that the majority of your income?
It's probably 50-50, like with my workshops, with my classes, with private clients. It's probably.
Well, let's go through that bit by the workshops. So what do you do for workshops and what percentage of your income is that? So
workshops are, no. Workshops out of the 50% of my income, that's yoga. Workshops are probably at least half, if not more. They tend to be way more profitable than classes. And I market them strictly through like social media. Like I obviously market to the people that are at the studios. But the rev share between the studios and the teacher is usually pretty fair. At least with the studios that I work with, they're really great studios. And I'd say like my last workshop, probably about 80% of the people, 85 were all off of Instagram. Some people came from like 2 or 3 hours away to the workshop. So to me, that's a really great way also of kind of meeting people face to face that you connect with online. And I think that social media is really valuable for that because I mean, that bought me, a lot of clients. So yeah.
Professor Radulski.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in Yoga University. Yoga 101, Danielle Radulski. So if you're bringing 80 or 90% of the people, why are you giving away 50% of the rev?
It's usually lower. It's usually like 60-40, so like 40. But it's more for the space.
Well, right. You could rent a gymnasium. You can find a cool hipster space that would be open with white painted brick and the usual and do your yoga class like for cheap, right? Is there a lot of infrastructure that the yoga studio is offering in some way?
I mean, they market you. Oh shoot, am I getting on?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, they market you, but just it happened to be for this workshop that I got more of my people from social media. So is it echoing?
No, it's totally fine.
Okay,
actually,
because I feel like I hear it.
You can hear an echo?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
that's
so
myself.
Yeah.
It's like by the end of the day, I'm like so sick of hearing myself talk, especially if I teach a lot. I'm like, I've looked into doing the workshops at other spaces, but I like generally if I'm working with a studio in that capacity, I really like the community that they build. I like the energy of the space, being very yogic. Like I enjoy practicing there. So yeah, so it's a cool experience, and that's definitely a big part of my business as a teacher is workshops.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question.
Yeah.
So if you're doing workshops and 80 or 90% of the people are coming because of you, I think one of the dangers of building that narcissistic yoga celeb thing online is that weirdos are attracted to what you're putting out there.
Right.
So, you know, you're a young woman. So when you're attracting people who are like big fans of you, is there ever any kind of, you know, low level weirdness or high level weirdness that you have to contend with? Which I think is a concern for particularly women teachers. What do you say? Sorry, what's that? Oh, so a comment is saying it is echoing, which might be painful. It's not echoing for me. Can you make sure you have only one tab open for Crowdcast? Because you might have two left over from the first when it froze.
Only one. Want me to just X out and join back in?
Well, if it's echoing the whole time, it's good. All right, we have no idea what's going on, so let's proceed. So for those viewing, we are in Crowdcast going through Facebook, 2 laptops, headphones, not headphones,
whole bunch
Boulder,
of things.
Colorado, somewhere above New York. So, you know, basically by all our God's will, this video will work or not. So we'll do our best. So I think it is a concern for a lot of young women, particularly yoga teachers. Do you ever have to deal with sort of weirdos on Instagram kind of thing?
I mean, I get a couple of comments, messages here and there. I've been pretty lucky. I really haven't gotten much. I know that there's others that get a lot more. But just like general safety concerns. I mean, when I teach workshops, I'm never the only one at the studio. You know, if I'm locking up late, I'm very aware of my surroundings. There's always cameras. And I think too, just kind of, you have to like find that balance of being nice and warm and welcoming, but also being like very stern and aware of your character and who you are, and basically like take no crap from people kind of thing. Like you need to walk in and kind of like own the space, I think, and find that balance. Like you don't want people to think that you're being overly nice and flirty. You just want to be nice and have that wall up still.
I love that. And I think there's a certain degree of like, you know, I'm a guy, so people are less weird with me.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, I did write a book about love and loneliness and romance and all that.
A couple things.
What's that?
I said just a couple things, just a couple hot topics.
Yeah. And when people are huge fans of that, and some people are like huge fans, like they don't blink level of fans, you know, it just really helps to not be, again, don't be entranced by your own thing. Be bored by celebrity.
Right.
So you're not here to be admired or loved, because that won't work. Social media will never fill that hole.
Right.
You're here to further a cause. On a practical level, it's your career. On a higher level, it's yoga path, being of benefit, hopefully. So, all right, workshops, rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then you can make those bigger and bigger. You can start going to like fancy places like everyone seems to do.
I mean, I like the idea of being able to just connect with people in real life. So I was in Maryland a couple months ago, and I met up with someone from Instagram, and we didn't do a workshop or anything. We actually took a class together and had coffee. And I think that just goes back to building community and being able to actually connect with people that are like a fan of you. And I think that that's really nice. And also being able to be like, listen, I'm a real person, is really cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I went to Miami recently for something, I don't remember. And someone picks me up at the airport, which was so sweet. And they're not weird at all. Yeah. Yeah, I went to dinner, vegan dinner somewhere with someone else. And I just felt like I was like at home and kind of hosted by local Miami. Yeah. So, okay, workshops are a significant part. And then what else?
Private clients is really great. The way that I've gotten a couple private clients through Instagram, through actually people just messaging me asking if I do private classes, not even like really advertising them. So I've gotten a few private clients that way, and then also through teaching classes. You know, if there's students that you connect with on a deeper level, oftentimes they will want classes, or maybe you specialize in something that they're working on. So private classes are really great, and it's a totally different style of teaching. And, you know, you get to know people on such a different level. Some of my private clients are some of my greatest friends now. So it's cool to see how things transpire, but privates are great. Like just coming from a financial standpoint, of course.
Because you can charge a lot more and it's more personal and
like I do I do virtual privates like Skype or whatever, FaceTime. And then you can
That's
also, yeah. And the studios that I work with are great. You know, some studios will charge you to use their space, some are free. And then obviously Skype, you know, you just use whatever, but I charge a lot less for Skype compared to an in-person. So it's nice to be able to give people benefits. And I think the Skype is not for everyone if you're looking for a lot more like hands-on assists, and, you know, it's harder to see, but some of my clients, when they travel, I do the virtual with them while they're away.
That's so weird.
I know.
Yeah, because private,
it's doing like a video. It's kind of the same.
Right.
Ish,
sure.
Ish.
I do think of as privates though, as like you're looking at alignments and you're
for sure.
You know, and then on Skype, that would be, I would personally be way too insecure or something to like do a private, like I'm in a hotel room, like moving around, like, no, a little more. I'd be like, that's so weird. Like in person somehow it seems like.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. It's mostly my clients that I already have that when they travel, they're like, oh, hey, you know, can we do a virtual session? But it is harder even from a teaching perspective because it's not as easy for me to pick up on things that they might need like a little tweaking or adjustments or stuff like that. So just a different style.
That's cool. And that makes sense if you start in personal privates that you could then maintenance or transition to video. So that's a significant portion.
Yep.
You were saying like workshops are a third or something?
They're like closer to 50. But granted, I don't do them that frequently. Like I try to do one every 6 weeks. And then it's a 2 to 3 hour session. So you market them, you know, in like 6-week increments.
That seems pretty healthfully frequent. Like it gives you time to advertise each one without like making people sick of you advertising.
Right. And I usually alternate studios and stuff too, so that some of them, you know, if one studio is closer to someone else or whatever, like I've looked into doing some in the city too. Just so that you can kind of vary it and that people, don't get sick of hearing you talk about the same thing. Right.
Well, and different people can come to different workshops that are more convenient.
Exactly. Like one.
Oh boy. What I would say just practically in terms of Instagram, I'll just talk about how to build your audience is you got to be consistent, whatever that is, once a day, once every 4 hours, once every 8 hours, whatever it is, it has to be consistent. I'm just talking again.
I can hear you. It's like torture. It's like, hello. And nobody can hear me. So
I like that you just said, I can hear you. It's like torture.
No, it's like torture because I can't talk.
I know. It's just funny. So I was getting into Instagram basics. So I think it's like really important to be consistent.
For sure.
And whatever that means to you, if it's every other day, if it's every day, if it's every 4 hours, we on Elephant do every like 4 to 8 hours. Basically, we have 4 different accounts and we're pretty consistent. I asked you this, we did one other video for our Elephant Academy, our online training school, but how did you build your audience? Which is, how many followers do you have on Instagram?
Just over 40,000, 42.
Okay. So, and you went pretty rapidly from nothing like a while ago, right?
It grew pretty quickly. And then to just being transparent, like lately it hasn't grown that much. But initially it did grow pretty quick. Why? The algorithm, I don't know. It's crazy. And
why is it growing, you mean?
Yeah. I thought you were asking why.
No, I was asking more like, how did you grow it quickly from nothing?
Yeah, I think initially a big part of it was, as you said, consistency. Consistency was key for me. And then also for a while I was fixated on like, okay, I have to post 3 or 4 times a day. And it was not only like exhausting creating all that content, but it was also just a little bit much, right? Like it's a lot. For me personally, it was. So what I started to do was basically think like quality over quantity. So I was like, okay, if I can come up with 1 really great post for the day rather than 3 that are kind of like whatever, I'd much rather do that. It's going to be better content. It's going to be a lot more full of heart and soul. And it's just, I'll be able to put more energy into it and engage with it. If I have 4 posts that I'm putting out in a day and I have to reply to the comments on all of them, I couldn't give it my all. So that was a big thing for me, was just being more realistic with my expectations of, you know, I'm going to put out X amount of posts a day per week and then sticking to that. Another thing that was really big was kind of figuring out how to balance the marketing and promotional stuff with more of like the journaling type of posts. Right now I do like anywhere from two marketing posts a week. And then the rest, like 5 to 7 posts, are just like general journaling posts, videos, like whatever's on my mind. So I think finding that balance between your marketing and then also people getting to know you is really important as well.
And I also would say, Elephant does a lot of marketing, but our marketing is like stuff like about my book or Elephant Academy or I don't know, there's probably other stuff, subscribe or get our newsletter or whatever. But we use images and captions that are about things we care about. Right. So it's almost never straight up marketing, like get our newsletter. And then in the caption, get our newsletter, So our marketing, we try to make it so that our marketing is valuable, personal, genuine content that people will like. Right. Because basically our approach is like, we care more about people getting something good out of any post. So like if I'm looking at your post and it's saying, join my workshop in New York on April 16th, if there's a sentence or a quote first that I can relate to, right. Whether if I'm in Arizona or Colorado or wherever, or then I'm still going to be engaging in Danielle Radulski that once a day or once every, whatever.
Right. And I think that goes back to like giving your audience something of value. So kind of, as you said, like whether it's a tip or a quote, like for me, sometimes it's like, if you can't come to my workshop, here's a couple ideas on how you can further your inversion practice at home, or, something like that. That way, whether people physically can or can't come to something, you're still giving them a little bit of something that's like a connection. It's educational. It's, they're coming to you as a resource.
Yeah. And I love that you said it kind of leveled off recently. I don't love that it leveled off, but I love that you said that.
Yeah. That's
a huge part. You're basically an entrepreneur building a brand that is you. Right. And hopefully that brand is not, that's an important thing we could discuss too, that brand should be aligned with who you are instead of being an image that you want to keep up. But part of being an entrepreneur is you are going to have lulls, you are going to have plateaus, and you have to figure out how to get through them. And it's not always up to you. Sometimes it's Instagram's algorithm, or in our case, Facebook's algorithm has changed for 4 years. We've gone from 23 million readers a month to 5 million readers a month. Wow. And we had to deal with that and diversify how we're getting our readers with our newsletter, whatever, and monetize in a way that felt consistent with our values. Right. And we're actually making more than double the amount of money that we were when we were at 23 million readers, and we have more than double the staff. So you just have to, it's like, I always say, it's like whitewater rafting.
Yeah, like, it is.
It's fun. There's moments of scariness.
Yeah.
And then once in a while you have a dead calm where you're like, nothing.
Oh God.
But it's not deliverance. It's a happier, more fun. It's, you're rafting through the Grand Canyon. So it's a fun journey. I mean, let's face it, like you're getting paid to teach yoga, which you love.
Love.
You're consulting on your side hustle is probably something that you find a lot of meaning, and you enjoy your clients, I would assume.
Yep.
So it's all a huge privilege, hopefully, to be able to be of some benefit and make money doing so, which is how Buddhist people define right livelihood. Being of benefit, paying your bills, doing what you love, doing what you're good at, and there's something else too, but I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel lucky every single day. And I think too that even in these moments of like quiet, or I don't really ever think it's like downtime, but I guess in those lulls where you almost kind of, it teaches you a lot about yourself. Like for a while I was kind of bummed out that the growth had stopped, and, what am I doing wrong, and this, that, and the other thing. And I think a big part of it too is you have to keep doing what's important to you and what's true to yourself, and also trust that the right people will come. Like you have to work for it, but you have to do it for the right reasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So what I always advise is when things aren't going well, you have to do two things simultaneously that are contradictory. One is you have to say, why are they not going well? Be curious, look for new things to do, look to correct things you're doing that maybe aren't helpful. That's like curiosity.
Yes, exactly.
But on the other hand, you have to not change who you are and have the confidence and just ground yourself. Do some mountain poses.
Yeah.
Like, know who you
do.
and the people who run around left and right with their, like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to get more followers if things aren't going well, you can tell, and it's not attractive, and ironically it probably hurts their brain.
Yeah, and I think it's like, when you're trying to please everyone else and, you know, you're changing who you are for other people, I mean, that's a hard act to keep up. Nobody can do that all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. And I think like letting go of a little bit of that ego, right? Of, you know, I want more followers. I want more people to like me and love me and follow me. And you know, you could have 50 million people following you, but if it's not A, the right people, and B, like there could be one person out of 100 that resonates with you so much and you can do so much to help them. And then you could have 50 million people that it's just like, they don't even see your stuff. They don't care. To me, it's more so about impacting people that really want to be impacted and really can resonate with the vision.
Yeah. One thing I would advise is, which I don't see you do, and I don't see a lot of people do, mm-hmm. maybe you are doing it, so I stand corrected if you are, but is diversify. So, you know, like Rachel Brathen, who's a longtime friend, she started when she was an unknown new yoga teacher blogging. You can look on Elephant. There's these blogs by a very unfamous Rachel Brathen, yoga girl, if you've heard of her. I know you have, but like if you so do 5 different things, like have a little Facebook, have a blog. I always say, like, if you're getting 1,000 people liking your photo, that's a huge, cool thing on Instagram. But even a bad blog on Elephant that doesn't do well is probably going to get 4,000 readers. Right. And in your bio, it'll link to your Instagram, or it'll link to your website, or it'll link to your workshop. So just get things ricocheting. And that way, if you can get more fans you can get the Elephant readers, and this isn't a plug directly for Elephant, although obviously I love it and it's independent and mission driven and all that. But if you want to choose Mind Body Green or Huffington Post or whatever it is, have your own blog. But I wouldn't advise your own blog as being a big thing unless it is a big thing. Like, you need a bigger website. So just have different things ricocheting and you're in the middle.
Yeah, like a springboard for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it gets you in front of new people, and you're totally right. That's something that I'm working on too, is specifically like writing and blogging, as you said, for, you know, other sites, and then also my YouTube. I love teaching and I love being able to, I mean, first of all, video is just so cool, and it's so amazing that you can reach so many people, and being able to give free classes it's just awesome. And I get messages sometimes and they're like, oh, people are like, why don't you put more content on your YouTube? And I always use the BS excuse of like, I don't have time, but I mean, nobody has time. So that's going to be a big thing for me this year, is just working on, you know, adding more content to my YouTube, working on, you know, just reaching new people.
What is your content on your YouTube? Is it classes?
Classes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's classes. Yep.
My other advice for you, just as I hate the word fan. I was going to say fan.
Friend.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So, like, the whole fanization or followerization of yoga community, I think is really unhealthy. So don't look up to people put them on a pedestal. Kind of way. Like, you can enjoy people and respect people. Keep it human, you know? Right. But as a fan or whatever, I don't know what the other word would be, because it's not really friend. I think that overstates. You know, I like seeing that you're a human being. So if it's posts of you like gardening or with your boyfriend or like just cooking, like just knowing you as a human being. Right. And I think maybe you probably do that, but sprinkling it in your posts, not just your story. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that connects with this don't let the tail wag the dog expression. Yeah. Like, a lot of people will post, like, if you post a photo of you, I feel like you garden or something. Maybe you don't, but like, I just cook. I mean, I walk my dog. So if you post a photo of you walking your dog and loving your dog, or a meal, cooking, whatever, and it doesn't do as well as the yoga photos, it's the ego. It's the ego thing, right? It's like, I need to check that at the door and just be like, you know what, this is who I am, and you're either going to like it or you're not, and I don't care either way. That's what it is. It's the ego, for sure. And I'm the first person to admit it. And I'm guilty of that myself in the opposite way. So Buddhists will always say, if you're sort of suppressing who you are, that's ego too. Right. So like I put up a poster of me at the Tom's headquarters in Venice, California, with this meaningful list of what they're doing to try to help with my sunglasses or whatever. And I put it up, and I never put up photos of myself on Elephant Journal's account on Instagram. And it was doing so badly compared to our other posts after like 10 minutes. And I was like,
did you delete it?
Yeah. And Lindsay Block at Elephant was like, this is the problem. You never put up posts. And we want, the point of a photo of me is not me again, but that there's a human behind Elephant, that it's not just quotes. And she said, this is the problem. You never put up posts. You take all these posts down, and then you don't build up a sort of following or an understanding that part of Elephant is the human beings behind it or involved with it, or the writers like Danielle or whoever. So I left it up, and it did fine. It didn't do awfully. It wasn't embarrassing. It wasn't just my grandma and my mom, you know, liking it. And that was a good lesson for me from Lindsay, who works at Elephant. Like, don't be overly obsessed with not doing well.
Yeah, you can't cling to it for sure. You gotta just let it be. And that's like, I mean, I just started adding more food in, but again, it's like you're learning a whole new thing. So I'm learning, but again, it's really food. It's not like me with the food, you know? But it's like learning a whole new thing. I want it to be quality content. So I'm learning, you know, a little bit more how to take the photos and the lighting, and, you know, then I'm kind of obsessing over that. So there's a lot of different things, but I started posting more of that, but it's funny because it's hard. You're like almost cringing. It's like, oh God, what's it going to do? Like, but you just got to do it.
Yeah. No, food photography, I would find like to be a total pain.
It's hard. I like my kind of like half pictures. Like maybe I'll just like share me eating it instead of like,
yeah. No, but seriously, I do think there's something charming about like seeing, part of what I like about your brand again is that it seems modest and humble and human.
Yeah.
You know? I kind of want to see you like with your like imperfect spatula, like cooking
real
something.
Life,
I don't want to see this stunning plate with like a little sprig like that no one would ever eat.
It's so like beautiful. When people cook with like 9 million ingredients that cost like $1,000 to make. I'm like, like I make healthy food, but you will never catch me with like a laundry list of ingredients that like you can't afford and you have to buy like only online from this specialty. I can't.
Yeah. That makes me think I should start like a, you know, What the Bachelor Eats at What the Bachelor Eats account. And just
that's amazing.
Like, yesterday I ate 2 bowls of organic blue corn chips.
Yeah.
In a bowl, which is a big step for me.
I was going to say, that's pretty good.
Not out of the bag, but literally nothing, like no salsa, no any, just eating chips. Like, why?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Were they salty?
Vaguely.
I love salt. That's probably.
It wasn't even that good though. I mean, it was just like the stuff I eat is embarrassing, and
you have to start that account. That's amazing. That's so relatable.
It would be a funny. It would be like photos of me standing and mindlessly like half putting up a shirt. I think the other day I was eating and like hanging a shirt up. All right, we're frozen briefly again, so this will be our commercial. I will thank our sponsor, Monsanto and Coca-Cola. And who else? She's going to talk a bit about classes and the income there.
Classes for sure.
So let's go back to income. So I love that you can hear me.
Yeah.
So
don't worry, I'm not missing a beat.
If Danielle were still with us, what she would be saying is, so workshops, privates, and then the classes themselves. That's like a portion of your income.
For sure. So, I mean, obviously every studio pays differently. I really see classes as a way of connecting, as a way of building my teaching, as a way of also, you know, you learn a lot as a teacher, I think almost as much as you do as a student. And that's like one of the most rewarding things as a teacher for me is actually getting to teach the classes. And, you know, private teaching is great, but you don't get the same energy that you get in a full room of people. You know, I'm sure you get that from when you talk to, you know, a full room of people. It's really cool. So I teach anywhere from like 5 to 8 classes a week. I used to teach a little bit more, and I just found, as silly as it may sound, that I was getting a little like, I don't want to say drained. That sounds dramatic. But it was a lot on top of what I was doing, because when you teach, you're giving so much of yourself to your students. And I felt like more when I was teaching more than 8 classes, I wasn't able to give fully. So it was hard for me, but I dialed it back a little bit. And I think that now I'm at like a pretty good balance where I can sub classes and help people out. And then I have my regular schedule.
I love that. I don't have much to add. A good friend of CJ and I's, Sophie, used to teach like 3 classes a day or something insane. And I think there's a level of like, you stand up there, you're like, okay, people, you're like, start being like,
it's a lot.
Sick of your own teaching.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you talk to people that either don't teach or maybe aren't that familiar with yoga, like my boyfriend doesn't do yoga, and he came to my first class, and that was the only class he's ever come to. And he like cried the whole time, said his arms hurt. And please, it was so funny. He stood in the back corner and like held onto the wall the whole time. But he like doesn't get it when I said, it was too much. I was giving, it's such a giving experience. And I just felt like I wasn't able to do my best. So I'm happy that I dialed it back a little bit. I think it was a really good decision.
And then how do you keep learning as you teach? Like, are you reading? Are you studying with other teachers? How do you keep nourishing your own path?
Yeah. So I have a couple of teachers at one of the studios that I teach at who I like to think of as my mentors. I love not only them as people, but also their teaching style. It's like what I would think of, I want to aspire to be when I'm, older and teaching. And you can tell that they have a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom. So I work a lot with them. So they help me out with like my sequences, with my classes. I go to their classes. And just even from taking classes, I try to take new classes with different teachers that I don't know all the time. There's always something that you can pick up on that maybe you love, maybe you're not crazy about. There's always something that you can take away. So I think that constantly learning is huge.
So let's talk about, this is not really a yoga career exactly, but adjustment seems to be a big subject right now for yoga teaching, where adjustments historically have been seen as key to teaching and key to studying, but now obviously with the Me Too movement and all this, there's been a fair amount of legal threats, even separate from any kind of sexual notes. Just if you adjust incorrectly and someone gets injured, the studio could get sued.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that whole subject?
Personally, I love adjustments. I like them in my practice. From a teaching perspective, just prefacing it, it's very personal. For me personally, I teach at a few different places. So one of the places is more of a yoga, 2 of the places are more yoga studios. One is more of like a fitness studio. They have cycling. It's not like a gym, but a little more of that vibe. So I generally will adjust in the studios, not so much in the fitness center, just because I think that, you're getting a different type of clientele. Again, reading the room, if there's students that I have every week, maybe I'll adjust them. When I first start new classes, I always preface by saying, I do adjustments throughout class. If you would prefer to not be adjusted, I make a joke, like just shoo me away. I won't be offended. I don't want anybody to ever feel uncomfortable. And I do give mindful adjustments. Like you won't be like caught off guard. Like I come over, I make it known that I'm going to adjust you, especially if they're a new student. Even if I say that at the beginning of class, when I'm approaching the student, I say, do you mind if I adjust your shoulders, or do you mind if I adjust your lower back, or just being very respectful. And then I think they know a little bit of what to expect. And you can tell if someone's uncomfortable with like you approaching them.
Yeah. Good for you. And I feel like adjustments are a key part of teaching, and it makes me really sad that most classes I go to, there's 0 adjustments in the entire class. There's a lot of adjustments of the playlist,
right,
and no adjustments. And you see people in awful alignment. And in case people don't realize this, like awful alignment will catch up with you. There are a ton of yoga injuries long term.
I see so many people with like straight as a board legs and down dog. I'm like, that is so bad for your lower back. You need to bend your knees. Like, and I am a big, like not a pusher, but I'm a big proponent of props. Like I use props in my own practice. I ask everyone to take props at the beginning of class. Coming from a safety standpoint, I think a lot of people approach it. I've actually done workshops on how to use props to deepen your practice, because I think people have a preconceived notion that props are like a crutch, which they're not. They're really, I describe them as you're lengthening something. So if you're using the props for your hands, you're lengthening your arms to reach the ground so that you feel more stable. And I think that also comes with education. There's a way that you can talk to your students that maybe a teacher spoke to you that can make you feel more comfortable reaching for a block or a bolster or.
So what else am I not asking? Like basic stuff like yoga insurance, yoga alliance. Do either of those things play any role in your
Yeah, I
career?
have yoga insurance. I'm a member of the Yoga Alliance, but to be honest, I'm not like super involved in it. I had the accreditation. And then the insurance I think is really important. It's like $200 a year, the insurance I have. It's pretty affordable. And then it allows you, it's Philadelphia insurance, and it allows you to use a few different studios' names on your insurance certificate. So if a studio that you're teaching at is like, hey, I need to be insured, you just go online to the portal, you type in the name of the company and the address, and you can print it out and it'll show that you're certified and insured at that studio.
What other basic things do you do as a yoga teacher and generally in your career that I haven't touched on that are helpful?
I think email list is really big. People always want to know your schedule. Your schedule is always changing if you're on vacation. So I think that that's really big.
Yeah, no, that's a huge one for us for sure. Danielle, thank you so much.
You. Sorry about the Wi-Fi.
Oh, it's not really your fault. It's just, America has like.
We gotta just do this in person. That's why this keeps That's why this keeps happening. Come on.
Well, we have been talking about less lately, but we have been talking about doing a retreat, which is always briefly a super priority of mine. And then whenever I run into one or two obstacles, I like get distracted from it for months. But I would love to do that, and then we can do all kinds of
so fun,
high def, videos. So thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
And we will put this video. We have some like yoga career 101 blogs from over the years.
Awesome.
We'll put this video in them. And if you want to put together some notes, it's an open invitation,
I'd love
no
to.
pressure. Yeah, it would be super fun to feature you on Elephant. So thank you, Danielle.